Morning, boys and girls. We have questions and answers today. And I think we may have a new chapter up on the Avatamsaka, which again, on the Flower Ornament Scripture, which again, I want to recommend to you, both in print to be read aloud as a sutra and also just to listen to. Although the effects are not noticeable at first, over time they become noticeable, and you find yourself with a better mind, more able to think openly, creatively, and comprehensively about everything, frankly. So it's a very good intelligence honing tool, which of course is very important in the context of AI. So let's see if there's questions.
Yeah, I have been lately thinking about Maslow's hierarchy. Let me just quickly summarize.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
An oldie but a goodie,
Mhm.
as far as it goes.
Yeah, I think like maybe like 7, 8 years ago, when I was really like suffering and was living in a lot of fear, I was looking into solutions for that. So I think some uh, therapists in the past, and also like other, also had a coach at that time. So they talked about this thing, and they told me to basically how to follow this in life. But yeah, and then we found out like the issues with that. So let me just quickly summarize what is Maslow's hierarchy. So in Maslow's hierarchy, they say that we have a pyramid, which lists out the needs of people, the needs of humans. At the lowest level, we have like, I think, psychological needs, which is the needs for human survival. So like people should be able to.
Yeah, so those would be physical needs, right?
Yeah, physical needs. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So people should be able to like have food, have like stuff for growth, uh, and like should not be, yeah, like have basically
Clean water,
clean water. Yeah, and clothing.
clean air,
Yeah, clothing, shelter, and then
right?
and then they say that that people who do not have this need taken care of, then they need to basically first address this need. So once this need is addressed, then people can go to the next level, which is the safety needs. So safety means like personal safety, living in a safe environment, financial security, health and well-being, and emotional, I think, stability, but that is more questionable, I think. So yeah, safety needs. And then
All right.
once people have these needs taken care of, then they can go to the next need, which is the social need, which is like having friendships, having like romantic relationships, having love, those kind of things. And then once these things are taken care of, then people can go to the further next level, which is needs of like esteem needs. I think it's like feeling valued and respected by others.
Self-esteem.
Yeah,
Okay. All
self-esteem.
right.
Yeah, achieving personal goals, gaining recognition, building confidence, stuff like that. And then at the last level, at the top of the pyramid, is the self-actualization needs, which is pushing, like doing creative stuff, building talents, and engaging in activities that fulfill our passion and values, things like that. So the biggest problem I had when I was trying to implement that was, it seemed to me that each level can last lifetime, or for like depending on the people's circumstances. So if I just keep doing one level, I might not end up being able to get to the top of the pyramid, because I might just keep busy in the whole thing. And even if one need is fulfilled.
Well, the top of the pyramid is not the top of the pyramid. I mean, he wrote that in the 40s or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And he was not, an enlightened teacher, right?
Hmm.
And so he only went so far. And so at some point we need to talk about what's beyond self-actualization, but keep going.
Yeah, so I thought
And
that.
I don't think he ever meant it as a progression so much as a description.
Hmm.
I mean, you could look at it as a progression,
Hmm.
and it's true that one thing builds upon another, and you can't really neglect anything too far down. But there are exceptions, and also, I don't think he saw it as a necessarily a prescription, but more as a description. I could be wrong about that. I haven't read that stuff in 50 years, but I don't think he necessarily meant it as a prescription so much. So, but which levels are you worried about?
Yeah, so for me, I was basically, so eventually, at least I got convinced that I need to work on all the levels at the same time. I should not wait for one level to finish it and start the other. For
Okay,
me,
good. That's exactly what I was saying. Keep going.
yeah, like for me, I think the biggest hurdle at that time was so I had like a fear of death going on at that time. So that was causing me the psychological need issue. And then I was also at the time basically like I didn't have like any like romantic stuff going on. So I thought maybe I need to fulfill this social need as well. So those were two things I was trying to work with at that time, and it just felt like a lot of work to do those things, and eventually I started doing all of them at the same time. That helped with things a bit more, but still spiritual was not in there, and that was a big question mark to me, why spirituality is not in this pyramid.
Well, because he's a psychologist, and in America, there was a whole big movement of scientific psychology, and so if there's not something that he can't measure or doesn't seem concrete enough, then he left it out. Remember, he was not an enlightened man, so there's many things that are left out. And so, yeah, I think that you should probably update the model. You know who has a good one? If people are inclined this way, I don't recommend it. But if they're inclined this way, Ken Wilber, I think, has a very nice model. And I think also Dr. David Hawkins, the psychiatrist, a little bit, Hawkins also has a good schemata. And so, yeah, I would move past Maslow and move to something more contemporary. For the simple reason that spiritual needs, or the needs of the spirit, or whatever you want to phrase it, and also the outing of the self, outing, outing, of the self, are part of and much more part of mainstream thinking now than they were back at the middle of the 20th century, when behaviorism actually was ruling the day, which is kind of interesting to think about. So I would update that. Move past Maslow's pyramid.
Got it. Yeah. And this week, as I was thinking about it, like a thought came up that that maybe what people meant by taking care of one need and then moving on to the other is maybe just it's like people just want to have a mental state where they are not bothered by the level before, and they can focus on whatever the level they are. So a workaround, or like maybe a hack or workaround, could be that if people are able to work with a relaxed and like more relaxed mind, that kind of mimics having achieved or like being comfortable with a certain level, and with that people would be able to work on all the levels and not be bothered by like fear or the greed that is causing each level to last a lifetime.
Well, let's see. There's different ways to approach that. First of all, there shouldn't be tension. I mean, if possible, you want to avoid the ups and downs and the contractions and the relaxation things that go along with stress, right? With any of them, if possible. But if you look at the pyramid, how much of that pyramid applies to animals?
To animals?
Let's say how much of it applies to to gazelles and tigers. Let's just take those two animals.
I think for them, level one, like the psychological need, is definitely there.
So that's physical need, not
Yeah.
psychological, right?
Yeah, physical need is definitely there. They
Yeah.
also need safety, like
Yeah.
having home. So they need that. They also need social. Maybe not too much social, because I don't think they are.
No, some of them do. Let's take wolves, for example.
Yeah.
They're very social animals.
Yeah. And then self-esteem, I don't know about that. Whether
Well, I mean,
animals need that or
not necessarily in the way we've sublimated it as humans, but let's take wolf packs, there's certainly something, there's a hierarchy, and they're always trying to change it. Same thing with lions. And, and so it's just worth thinking about how much of this is just basic biology, right? And quite a bit of it is my only point.
I mean, I have seen animals do all of these five, so probably it's all animalistic if I look at that way. Because
they haven't actualized themselves, though, have they?
I mean,
they don't paint or write poetry or play sports.
Yeah, not like that kind, but I have seen some animals do like some amazing stuff, which is more creative. So some animals are able to do that, if not all.
Yeah, so that's a reason to think about it and say, well, wait a minute, am I just an animal? And then now that we have AIs, that's another reason to go back and revisit this, the whole pyramid, and maybe it's not as sacrosanct as people have imagined it to be.
Yeah. Got it. So for myself, I was thinking that as I keep on working on dharma, and also living, doing work and doing other things in the world, there's this thing that comes up pretty often, which is keeping affairs in order, and sometimes it's like affairs are not in order for one reason or the other.
Yeah.
So in those cases, maybe the best thing I can do is just do my best in keeping the affairs in order, and beyond that, just know that the tools and techniques, so that I can keep my mind relaxed and still keep doing both the dharma work and the worldly stuff.
Yeah, and the dharma work will help with all that. All right, the dharma work will make it possible for you to see that you are not your mind, right? And whatever else your mind may be doing, or whatever your mind seems to be doing, that's really not where the action is, because that's not what you really are. I mean, you are and you aren't. I mean, it's one of those being and non-being questions, where at one level of abstraction you could say, well, yeah, that's what I am. But at another level of abstraction, that makes no sense whatsoever. So depending on your insight, your level of understanding, you also can liberate yourself that way from the whole thing.
Yeah.
What did Jesus say? My kingdom is not of this world. I think that's the way he put it. He also said, by the way, the kingdom of God is within you. So those are both very powerful mystical statements, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that mysticism is really, really good at, transcending the world.
But the issue with me is that when I read these statements, or when I hear stuff like that, I can contemplate on it, but it's not in my experience. So for me,
it is in your experience, but your mind is blocking you from recognizing that. Okay, so your innate awareness is the most fundamental part of you, and you've known it all your life, and you didn't even know it now. But right now, it's being covered by a identification with something else. It's like someone identifying with their clothes or their car or their house or their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their degrees or their title or something like that. Those are all common mistakes that people make. They think, well, that must be what I am, right? Because that's what I've worked so hard to achieve or accomplish, or that's what everybody has told me that I am. But no, that's not what you are. What you are is that foundational awareness, that foundational mirror-like awareness, that sky-like awareness, the Dharmakaya, the consciousness that not only pervades your skull, but also pervades everything that you're observing and the cosmos, and includes all of those things. And so it's not that you have never experienced it, it's that you're actively blocking it. And this is where the flower ornament, again, can be very helpful, or sometimes for folks, Zen koans can be helpful. And sometimes just relaxing and just being aware that that's the case, and considering the possibility seriously, that truth is not something you're going to think or you're going to reason out. I mean, you can reason it out, but you're not going to experience it while you're identifying with something else.
And I think that's where I am. So like,
Right.
yeah. So like lately, what happens that whenever these like fears or these like intense things come up, suddenly mind thinks, oh, that okay, I have read and this, and I have contemplated on this, and even though it's not in my experience, let's just keep doing it. So it basically puts this problem of,
it is in your experience. You got to remember that it is in your experience. You've just covered it up.
so even
it is what you are. It's like a fish in the ocean and looking for water, right? The water is everywhere. It's in every cell. It's surrounded by water, made of water. Everything is water, essentially. And that's the hardest thing in the world for the fish to see, because they think it's an object of some sort, or a sensory phenomenon. It transcends the senses and the mind. It's very interesting that way. And that's why people say that the consciousness is not produced by the brain. When you finally realize that consciousness is all there is, and that the perceiver is the perceived, or the observer is the observed, or the world is consciousness, and then you sort of melt the boundaries that you've artificially created, then what you have left is this shining, extraordinarily miraculous, mysterious stuff that both creates the world within it and your body and your mind, and everything is created by this magical mystery stuff. The entire universe. I mean, you could start with this, this universe, the Big Bang, if you want to look at it that way, or you could start with your brain or your mind or your body or whatever. It's all magical mystery stuff. It's not there, but that's all there is. And here's where the Taoists are really, really economical in describing all this. So, it's, you're getting there. I mean, gradually you start to realize that, you fight a certain battle, and you fight the same battle for like a year or 2 or 3 or even longer. And then you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm not even fighting the right battle. I'm fighting the wrong thing in the wrong way. And so then you don't become as just like you don't become attached to the trees and the birds in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
You don't become attached to your thoughts or your identity, which is just a form of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Your identity is as anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so your consciousness becomes like a mirror or a window, which reflects perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't add anything. It doesn't need to add anything. And even if it did, it wouldn't make any difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take a mirror, right, and we could hold up a pencil and hold up a candle and hold up a flower and say, okay, this is what the mirror is reflecting right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were to hold up a cat and a dog and a pumpkin, it would make one bit of difference to the mirror. The mirror is still untouched,
Mm-hmm.
even though now it has a cat, a dog, and a pumpkin, or whatever else we reflect in front of it. It's of no bearing to the mirror. Mm-hmm. That's why the Tibetan Buddhists talk about mirror-like awareness. But it's not really a reflection. It's more of I guess you'd have to call it something like a projection rather than a reflection. Mm-hmm. It'll all make sense. You just need some time. Mm-hmm. It's your birthright. Mm-hmm. Everybody's birthright.
And like a lot of times what I see is when I am not doing things the right way, it's almost always because of some kind of attachment to something.
Okay, we could kind of go along with that, but in a way, see, you don't have to do anything the right way or the wrong way to be unconditioned awareness. There's no right way or wrong way for the mirror. The mirror reflects. There's no right thing or wrong thing for the mirror to reflect, or the window to show, mm-hmm. or for you to observe. Mm-hmm. Those are just matters of speaking, right? And through history, like 2,500 years or so, at least, we've known that certain ways of looking at things are not helpful, and other ones are more helpful. So the way that you just described it, that your lack of attachment to this and that's a good way. I mean, mm-hmm. But just remember that you. Why would you be attached to something if you, first of all, it's just going to come and go, and secondly, that you could just create another cosmos if it comes to that. I mean, that's the nature of consciousness. It's creative. Mm-hmm. The I Ching, they talk about the creative. Mm-hmm. Or in the I Ching. I was reading about the I Ching last night. Do you know that they, according to Grok, it's responsible for algebra and the binary system through Leibniz, and also apparently some guy in quantum mechanics, a big name too. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was Schrodinger, it may have been somebody else, but they attribute it to a lot to do with the standard model or something like that. So it couldn't have been Schrodinger, it was probably somebody else. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but a lot of mathematics in the binary system, which underlies all our AI, according to Grok, now, that's not the final authority, but it's an authority, can be traced to fascinations in the 18th and 19th centuries with the binary system of the I Ching, mm-hmm. which is the forefather of the Tao. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, I mean, don't stress about it. It'll unfold if you stick with the program and kind of do. Just I read somewhere, it was a very nice, I think it was a Tibetan master who said, who recommended to his students, you have to be thinking about Dharma every day and every night, day and night. You just have to, it always has to be there. You are the desire for truth must be behind everything that you do, and that's wise counsel, right? You just saturate yourself, and then eventually the penny drops. But the sincerity and the integrity have to be there, right? And the humility, sincerity, integrity. And without those, you're not going to get far.
Got it.
And you have to say, if you look at the masters alive and dead, right? They were all sincere, sincere women and men, and so that counts for a lot more than people realize. Which is why I'm saying it now. But go ahead.
No, I think that makes sense. Like for me, what I also see the same thing is, even if there is an attachment, or even if there's not an attachment, as long as I just try to keep the space and just try to like either be like fully immersed in that, or like go back to the like to the awareness stuff, then attachment.
Right. Well, just where did this universe come from? Just this universe. Where did it come from?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems, yeah.
It comes from what we can call the creative, right? Now, what do we know that's creative, really, truly creative? Only awareness itself, only consciousness itself do we know is truly creative, able to create something from nothing. And so, also by means of elimination, you get to this realization that, wait a minute, this world is far more mysterious, far, far, far more mysterious than anything we imagine. And what's going on here? What are we doing? We're walking around, we're animals, but not really. We're intelligent, but not really. We're real, but not really. And the universe is real, but not really. We know that everything exists only temporarily, only, as an expedient, only as a provisionally. Everything is made up of something else in this cosmos. And if you just take it apart, then there's nothing left except for the substrate. And you can't name a thing to me right now that is real in this universe at its core. You can't name one thing that has its own personal essence. Not a thing. And you start living with that fact, and you realize that everything is compounded, everything is interdependent, and everything reflects everything else. And then one day you go, aha, or something happens, and you've just the understanding is there. But again, the Flower Ornament Scripture, I can't recommend that book enough. Now, you could also go through all the Sufi, I don't want to use the word trading literature, but the Sufi preparatory materials, or the Zen, right? Or you could just spend a long time on the I Ching. Any of them will get you there. So, as you know, I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to the audience. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions from Avatamsaka.
Oh, good. Those are good.
Yeah, so this one is from.
Let me tell people about the Avatamsaka, in case they don't know. It's also called the Flower Ornament Sutra, or the Flower Ornament Scripture. It was written earlier than the first parts of it were written earlier than I had previously thought, in the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD. And it's the root of all Buddhist traditions, up into and including the Zen, especially Zen, but also the Tibetans. And it's like the most comprehensive and kind of flamboyant of all the Buddhist scriptures. And it wasn't translated into English until around 1986. And so it's going to take a while for us to digest this beautiful, beautiful sutra. But it's a gorgeous translation. It's available wherever fine books are sold. And well worth looking into. Okay, go ahead. What's the question?
Yeah, so this one is from the book 10 Inexhaustible Treasuries. It's on
All right.
page 490. So here they are
All right.
talking about like enlightening beings giving. So they give a few examples, like what is enlightening beings inside giving, what is their outside giving, what is total giving, and things like that.
Okay.
And the example of the giving that they are talking about is pretty extreme. It's like I just
Yes.
read up a few things, like a few of them, and maybe that will clarify that. So,
Well, don't start with the most extreme. Start with some. Give people a taste of the sutra first.
okay, yeah. I just like read in order, just like
All
how
right.
it's written.
Slowly and carefully, so the captions get it and people can understand.
Yeah. So it starts with what is enlightening beings inside giving. When the enlightening beings are young, vigorous, and good looking, adorned with scents, flowers, and clothing, and have just received coronation as universal sovereigns, having all the seven treasures of universal monarchs reigning over the four quarters, if someone should come and say, O great sovereign, know that I am old and feeble, seriously ill, alone and helpless, worn out, and not far from death, if I were to receive the hands and feet, blood and flesh, head, eyes, bones, and marrow from the king's body, my life would be saved. Please don't deliberate further and do not begrudge me on this. Just look upon me with compassion and give them to me. At such a time, the enlightening beings would think, this body of mine will in the end surely die without any benefit. I should take the opportunity to give it away early to save a living being. With this thought, they give without regret. This is called insight giving. What is enlightening?
Insight giving.
Yeah, this is called insight giving.
Okay.
What is enlightening beings outside giving? When enlightening beings are in full maturity and physical well being, replete with all marks of dignity, adorned with fine flowers and excellent clothing, having been crowned as universal monarchs, reigning over the four quarters, having all the seven treasures, should someone come and say, I am poor and oppressed by all kinds of miseries, please be so kind and compassionate as to give up your rank to me, so that I may reign and experience the felicities of sovereignty. The enlightening beings think all flourishing and prosperity must inevitably decline and end. When it does decline and end, it is no longer possible to benefit sentient beings. I should satisfy this person as he requests, and having formed this thought, they give up the throne without regret. This is called outside giving. What is enlightening beings inside and outside giving? When the enlightening beings are in the position of universal monarch, as explained before, if someone comes and says, you have been in the rank of universal monarch for a long time, and I have never been, please abdicate in my favor and be my attendant. At that time, the enlightening beings think, my body, wealth, and rank are all impermanent. I am now in my prime, wealthy, in possession of the whole world. Now a beggar appears before me. I should, through these perishable things, seek the imperishable truth. And so thinking, they abdicate personally, work respectfully as servants, without regret. This is called inside and outside giving.
Okay, so what's the question?
So it's like, so when I read that, I initially I thought, okay, they are just like trying to like give ideas so that people don't get attached to this kind of stuff, and they can like give up on them when there's a right time for it. But this is pretty.
Well, okay.
But this is pretty
But
extreme.
pretty extreme, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the reason it's extreme because of you like the insight, I mean, in a way it's extreme, right? But as you were saying that, I was thinking of Jesus, right? What did Jesus give up? Everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you talk about transcendent giving, generosity, transcendent generosity and transcendent insight and wisdom and these things, the world that they're describing is another world than the one you live in. The world you live in is limited, and you've only got one set of arms, and you've only got one set of eyes and ears, and you've only got one title. You can only be monarch for one lifetime, and all this. So you're putting all of these constraints on the realm of reality, right? And so, in the realm of reality, the universal monarch Samantabhadra, for example, does give life, right? Does give seed and hearing and honor and title and gifts and everything is given to us.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with you. First of all, I agree with you that when I first read that particular book, I was shocked. I was saying, like, this can't be right? Because they dedicate ears, legs, and feet and all kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're speaking, to put it in the most trivial way, you could say, well, that's just aspirational. But then if you look at what some of people have sacrificed, historical people, right, for the sake of truth, then it becomes a little bit more concrete and it becomes more of a devotional path. But I think probably the best way to look at it right now for you, and it was difficult for me, so don't feel bad about it. I mean, very difficult for me. It's a transcendent aspirational guide. There's something called I don't have the technical name for it. It's a kind of meditation that the Tibetans do, where they exchange self for others, and they breathe out pure, clean, perfect air, and they breathe in this smoky air that's full of all the defilements of human beings. There's a name for it. It's a medium advanced practice. It's called exchanging self for others. There's a technical name for it. It should be in that book by How to Meditate by Kathleen MacDonald. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that woman got a hold of such advanced Tibetan meditations, but she did. And so exchanging self for others is also very extreme. But you have to remember, this is in the realm of dedication of intent and aspirational, okay? Mm-hmm. And then later, when you realize what you really are and what it would cost you, I mean, what would one human body cost you if you have an unlimited supply of human bodies? Mm-hmm. But at any rate, I'm rationalizing a bit. Just let it wash over you. It's to give you some idea of the sincerity of the practitioner, and also of the generosity of the practitioner, right? Mm-hmm. Both. And then just don't worry about it. And maybe they're just to guard against people becoming too literal or becoming too obsessive. Mm-hmm. So just work with it, let it work with you, and don't trouble yourself with that. Okay. And then there's other levels too, the fear and the greed aspects of it, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to hold on to something so badly that you won't give it to someone else, then maybe that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know. Just don't worry about it. Just go through it. It's painful, admittedly, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure exactly all of the rationales for that, but I suspect it was also something of a way to weed people out, or perhaps a therapeutic method for people who were just taking everything too literally. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't put either motive past them. And as I learned more rationales, legitimate rationales, become clear. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's probably the toughest part of the sutra, I think. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have one last question
All right,
from
let's do it.
the same book. So this is I just read it out. It's just like a small paragraph. It
All
says,
right.
"What is the enlightening being's past giving? The enlightening beings, having heard of the accomplishments and virtues of the Buddhas and enlightening beings of the past, are not attached to them, realizing they are not existent. They do not create discrimination, do not covet, crave, or seek them. They depend on nothing. They see things as like dreams, without solidity. They do not conceive of roots of goodness as existent, and they do not rely on them. However, they fulfill the teachings of Buddhas and expound them in order to teach and edify grasping, clinging sentient beings. Also, they contemplate all things of the past, searching them out everywhere to find they cannot be apprehended. Having reflected thus, they ultimately relinquish all things of the past. This is called past given."
Yeah, that's like in the Toltec, erase personal history.
Mhm.
Okay, but this is much more elegant. And is this in the same book as you were speaking of before?
Yeah, it's the same book, yeah.
And what's the title of the book again?
10 Inexhaustible Treasuries.
All right, yeah. So there's another facet I forgot. I didn't mention it all because it didn't occur to me, but it just did. Is that, remember, this is a dream world, right? So let's say you're in a dream. You've fallen asleep and you've had a dream. And somebody says, "Hey, I need a right hand. Can you spare one?" And you unscrew your right hand and you give it to them. Have you lost anything?
No, it was just a dream.
Exactly. And so with deeper insight, you'll understand that this world is dreamlike, that there's, like I was saying before, nothing has inherent existence. Now, I'm not saying be crazy and, don't chop off your ear to give it to somebody or anything like that.
Mhm.
But this is at another level of understanding.
Mhm.
And that's what that last passage points out beautifully,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That at another level of abstraction, anything physical is there's no such thing, right?
Mhm.
So you're just giving away and receiving, giving, and also there's no giver and there's no receiver. Like again, Jesus keeps coming to mind, but what you do unto others, you do unto me. So what you give unto others, you give unto me, and Jesus makes several allusions of there being no distinction between self and others.
Mhm.
And so now I'm not saying that many humans are likely to reach this level of deep penetration, but you can at least acknowledge that it's true, right?
Mhm.
The Dalai Lama tells a funny story about how he's on an airplane and the airplane looked like it was going to crash or something was wrong, a lot of turbulence or something.
Mhm.
And the Dalai Lama laughs because he wanted to survive, right?
Mhm.
And he wasn't thinking about anybody else on the plane. He just wanted to live. And he laughs, his laugh, right?
Mhm.
Because, it shows that he's not perfect, right?
Mhm.
But the point of the matter is that life and death are not matters of the body.
Mhm.
And there is no death, so there's only light, I guess, or something like that. But again, these are advanced. This is a very advanced part of the book.
Mhm.
Okay, very advanced, and its effect on you. It has it's like a kaleidoscope of different effects, and so you can just pay attention to all those, and then you'll see that as you grow older, when you're an old man like me, you'll say, "Wait, that chapter which I really hated is actually very, very profound, but in many ways that I'd never thought of before."
Mhm.
Right? So don't let it scare you.
Mhm. I mean, it's not that I hate it. It's just that I was under the impression that maybe they are talking metaphorically and not literally in this thing.
Metaphorical is too weak a word. It's not. It would be. Metaphorical is not the right word that I would apply. They're speaking aspirationally,
Mhm.
until you get to transcendent, then they're speaking transcendentally, or not transcendentally because of what happened to that word, but then, it just occurred to me, it didn't occur to me before, if you're thinking about Jesus, right?
And exactly, yeah, that was the other thing that I
Or
know about.
Mohammed, peace be upon him, or Socrates, even Socrates.
Exactly. I was Socrates and Jesus. The thing were the two people who came to my mind when I was reading
Okay,
it.
all right. So let it do its work. Let it do its magic, and don't get too obsessed or too concrete. I guess that's the easiest thing to say. I mean, the best thing to say. Simplest.
Got it.
Okay. Anything else before we stop?
No, I think that was. Oh yeah, I think just one question that I asked you on text too. So like sometimes I am like coughing too much, and during that time I was.
Well, so is that personal, or is that?
No. It's not personal. So like earlier, I was always reading the book, like speaking it out, like chanting. But sometimes,
Okay.
if I'm not in a condition to do that, can I like I would like to just like read through the book.
Sure. No, you can read it. You can chant it. Chanting it with others is very good. Or you can listen to it now, something that's not available before. All right. So we have beautiful versions on YouTube that are coming out. And in the past, you couldn't do this unless you had a whole group of people to chat to each other. So take advantage of that new means. And I checked it out, and it works. I mean, it's not always easy, but none of this is. And if you stick with it, I mean, it'll do its work. Especially about the worlds, right? All right, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Adios.
Yep. Thank you. Adios.
Take good care. Ciao.
Bye.